Here we're asked to solve this quadratic equation by completing the square. Now the first thing I notice is that the leading coefficient here is 3. We need that to be a 1. So let's begin by dividing both sides by 3. Doing that, you can see we'll be left with x squared minus 2/3 x and then plus 1/3 equals 0. So now that our leading coefficient is 1, we can begin the steps for completing the square. Let's subtract 1/3 to both sides. That leaves us with x squared minus 2/3 x equals negative 1/3. Now at this point I left space for the value that's going to complete the square here. To find that value, we need to look at b over 2 squared. Now in this case, since the leading coefficient is 1, b is negative 2/3. So we need to calculate negative 2/3 divided by 2, and then square that. So in this case, we have negative 2/3 times 1/2 squared, which is equal to negative 1/3 squared, or 1/9. So 1/9 is the value that's going to complete the square. Let's add that to both sides of this equation. Now after we do that, the left side here should be a perfect square trinomial. Factoring, we have x times x. 1/9 factors as 1/3 times 1/3, and 1/3 and 1/3 adds up to negative 2/3 if they're both negative. So we have x minus 1/3 times x minus 1/3. Now on the right side here, we need a common denominator. So I'll go ahead and get the equivalent fraction here, negative 3/9. Negative 3/9 plus 1/9 leaves us with negative 2/9. And so at this point we've completed the square. We have the quantity x minus 1/3 squared equals negative 2/9. And so at this point we can then extract the root. Applying the square root property, we'll be left with x minus 1/3 equals plus or minus the square root of negative 2/9, which simplifies, and we have x minus 1/3 equals plus or minus I times the square root of 2 over 3. And then adding 1/3, we have our two solutions. X equals 1/3 plus or minus square root of 2 over 3 times I.